This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to your latest edition of the Blood Red podcast. I am your host, Sam Carroll, and today we've got a pretty full squad of people. Sitting to my left, it's Keith O'Neill. We're also joined by Sean Bradbury and Theo Squires. Guys, how are we?
Very well. It's nice to not be in the hosting seat today. Looking forward to a Sam Carroll roller coaster.
Well, there was like a kind of jibe put on my name there, wasn't there, when someone kind of was like incredulous that I should host with you in the room. So maybe people can send their thoughts on Twitter to who they'd prefer, me or S. Brad.
I think you've got enough going in your mentions at the moment. You might want to stay clear.
We'll less of that. Less of that.
Sam's next follower is his 5,000.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll gain like 5,000 followers while we're in here.
Big.
Theo, have you been staying up to watch Liverpool on tour, or was you firmly in bed for the 2-2 against Sporting Lisbon?
Bit of both. Stayed up for the first one, though would have been a bit of trouble if I wasn't, as I was in here for it. Second one, I fell asleep at half-time. Had to show my support for Andy Lonergan, former Bolton hero.
Yeah?
He sacked off the third one.
Sacked up. Sean?
Similar, actually. I was in for the second one. I've seen a fair bit of the first one back, and I haven't seen much of the third one, apart from the goals. So, yeah. Second one I was in here for, though.
I was El Kippo for all of them.
El Kippo?
Well, I'm in at 7, so I was just like, no, definitely.
Yeah. Professional?
Yeah.
I kind of found when I was in here, like when there was lulls in the game, you'd kind of like close your eyes and like, you know, where you were kind of like drifting off a little bit, and then like Joe would go to me like, have you done this? And you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm on it.
I just had a massive bottle of Lucozade to keep me through.
Yeah, well, I have just found a can of Coke that I put in the fridge on Wednesday, so if anyone hears a cracking sound midway through that podcast, it's me pulling the trigger on a nice cold can of Coke. We'll get started anyway, otherwise we'll be sitting here nattering away about late night echo shifts for the rest of the podcast. Sean, there's 2 weeks until the start of the Premier League season?
Yeah, pretty much.
Liverpool, state of play in the transfer window, where are we at? What would you like to see? How do you think it's going? Is it more about offloadings than incomings? And do you think we'll see someone doing the Melwood lean?
I think it's possible, but I'm certainly not unduly concerned. If they didn't bring anyone else in from this position now, I still think Liverpool are in a big position of strength. Yeah. I think there's a unique factor for me based on last season, and I know like we've talked in a lot of pods about whether truly this rivalry with Man City, whether it's one-sided, how intense it is, but I just don't think it's something you can ignore, and I think it's Klopp's message to these players is quite key. Like I think there's a psychological aspect essentially to this transfer window, and I think he's kind of got to ask these players to go again. So normally you might think, well, you need a couple of new faces to come through and freshen up a dressing room, especially after the heartbreak of just missing out on the league. But then I think instantly the players had an opportunity to bounce back in that Champions League final. They did so, and I think he's just saying to them, your next challenge is to try and dethrone City, kind of overhaul them in the league. And that's why I think having a settled squad, which it is as well, that's the thing. I think we don't really be making arguments about cover, and if a few players could come in, the positions are obvious. We've talked about them before. You'd be looking at left back, a versatile forward. I've also made an argument for maybe a number 10, so you could change it around the midfield a little bit. But I think as long as Liverpool if they're fairly lucky with injuries and all plans go as you'd hope, then this squad's ready to challenge again. And you look at the rivals. I don't think anyone's made a massive move yet. City especially. Okay, they've signed Rodri in central midfield, and that's a kind of a replacement in a way that they needed long term if you're thinking of replacing Fernandinho. But it's kind of like for like. It's someone who's got to get used to the pace of the league and isn't guaranteed to hit the ground running. So I think we kind of, if it's left as it is now, I don't think Liverpool are necessarily at a disadvantage going into the new season.
Is Klopp in one of the hardest positions in football, Theo, in that, I was comparing it the other day to the season when Chelsea won the league in Mourinho's second season back, and they kind of looked brilliant, and then you remember he just signed Begovic and Falcao on loan because it kind of felt like there was no gaps in that starting lineup, and Mourinho kind of went down that route and just signed cover. Do you think in modern football you always need to sign one or two players each summer who can come in and can grab a spot, can grab a shirt in the starting lineup, or do you agree with Sean if the transfer window slams shut and the exact same squad, obviously with the additions of your Brewsters and your Oxlade-Chamberlains who didn't feature last season because of injury, you'd be happy with that?
I'd be content with the squad the way it is. You look at the mentality they've got there. Obviously, last year when they lost in the Champions League final, it was like, we go again. They managed to do that. They went one further. You look at football, that happens quite a lot. Like Aston Villa did it in the playoffs, lost the playoff final, then went and won it. And there's so much talent in that Liverpool squad. They're all at that age where they're peaking together, that it's right for Klopp to show his faith in them, to let them go out and have another go at it. We did a piece earlier this week looking at the age of some of the players in the squad, and it's only really Lallana and Milner that you say are past their best. Then you've got a few others like Henderson, Wijnaldum that are nearing 30. And you think, well, you've got that spine there that reaching the peak of their powers at the same time. You can get another year, 2 years out of this squad, and that's when you may be thinking players placed in the team are coming under the threat. Like the front three, the best in Europe, best on the planet arguably, and they're going to keep delivering it time and time again. They probably could do with a bit of support, but they're not at that time now where the tiredness is too much for them. They just need something that can come in, and it's all a gradual process for bringing players in. That's why we're looking at Brewster now. He's the third choice striker, 19 years old. He's obviously got a bit of talent. He needs to get settled into the team, but in 3-4 years' time, he'll be ready to step up into the mantle. It's the same with what City have been doing. When you look at Gabriel Jesus, he's been there for 3 years now, 2 years now, whatever it is, as that understudy to Aguero, and it's all with that long-term aim to replace the players as they go forward. Liverpool only missed out on the title by a point, so this squad was obviously good enough to do that. Maybe next year they can get that 1 point back.
Heart of hearts then, Kiva, do you think we'll see a big name through the doors this summer, or do you think it will be a quiet summer with maybe no one, or maybe one or two kind of backups?
I think Klopp hinted, didn't he, at one player, so I think someone will come in, then obviously Harvey Elliott, the young lad. I hope it's not him and there's someone else sort of to come, because you do need, I think, signings.
What a haircut though. That haircut could make up for several big signings.
It could.
You've got to be good with that,
haven't you? All the shirt numbers with that haircut. Really.
It's like wearing white boots, that, isn't it? It's a sign that you're backing yourself.
White tape.
The other day I was going from town to my mum and dad's for footy, and I forgot my footy socks, and for some reason in my drawer I only had a pair of luminous pink socks. But when I got to footy I was kind of like, only good players can wear luminous pink socks.
Did you back it up?
So why are you wearing them?
Always back it up. I always back it up. Sorry, Keith, we've just...
So you got beat. Yeah, but I think I'm a little bit worried because pre-season has shown us a glimpse of injury crises can just hit out of nowhere, can't they? Obviously, Klein's injured before that. I know the youngsters like Jaros, the goalkeeper, got an injury. Duncan, I think, had a minor something, didn't he? And obviously Larucci, and there's another someone, Glatzel as well. I know the younger players, Klein would have been back up, I think, going forward, because you just didn't know. You felt like Klopp was maybe leaning on him to sort of just be in the squad, because he's still got a contract at Liverpool, and he's an England international and got good experience, but now he's sort of ruled out for the next 6 months. It does make you think, like injuries can just be like a domino effect, and I know it's only pre-season and most of them people have listed the young players who probably wouldn't have featured for Liverpool's first team a lot, but it is that kind of, it just leaves that little seed of doubt in the back of your mind going, should we maybe gone a bit harder? But obviously, as Theo and Sean have said, we are as well content with a Champions League winning squad who are all hitting the peak at the right time, so it's just like that balance, isn't it? But obviously I'd like to see a senior player coming in, whether it be a goalkeeper or a left back, just someone that can come in and just gives you a little boost as well. The fans, that's why people are reading our stories when we write about transfers, because fans love transfers, they love signing new players, and I think to compete with Man City, Liverpool have to maybe just pull one out the bag towards the end of this transfer window.
I think the key thing for me is, I'm not saying managers are beyond criticism, and certainly Jurgen Klopp isn't, but I think if he's happy...
There we go.
There it is.
It's cracked.
The trigger's been pulled. Oh, this will power us through now. But I think I'm not saying fans have to blindly trust the manager and the other key decision makers at Anfield, but I think if Klopp is happy, genuinely happy with this squad, then that's what he's gunning for, because the money's surely there. He's never been in a more powerful position at the club on the back of last season. We've had lots of pieces recently about FSG, Billy Hogan, sponsorship deals. Everything's going the right way off the pitch. So commercially, they're flying. TV money, all the revenue from the Champions League. I think if he had a top target and he wanted to go out and buy someone, I'm sure that the club would do everything they can to support him in that respect. So yeah, I don't think that. I think you've just got to kind of put your faith in him. And I think every time Klopp has seemingly taken a transfer gamble. Which there's probably been a few occasions, hasn't there? There was a January where Mane was at the Africa Cup of Nations and everyone was thinking, Liverpool are going to be short here, should we sign another forward, another winger? And Klopp at the time, if he couldn't get his top targets, which he couldn't, He didn't compromise.
Sat tight.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've seen it again with like Van Dijk. He waited out for him. Alisson, you know, he waited to get his number one man. And whilst it took a little bit of time to assemble the squad, as soon as he got it together, we saw last season how good it was. So, yeah, I think it's a case of trusting him once again, really.
So you saying Mbappe 2020 again, Sean? Yeah?
Well, this is true. I mean, if you follow that pattern, he did say, what was his quote earlier this week where he was talking about, he was asked about Coutinho and buying him, and he said, oh, you know, it would cost big money, and it's, you know, it's not something we'd be looking to do this year. So
it's not the year for it.
Yeah.
Imagine that if, like, next summer, Liverpool just signed Mbappe and I think our website might break if he signed Mbappe and Coutinho.
I think I'd break.
in a double deal. Who'd you get on the back of your shirt, Mbappe or the returning king?
Well, I'm an adult, so I don't get names on the back of my shirt.
You wear pink socks, so we know what kind
do
of...
wear
Who do you get on the back of your shirt?
I was just Larucci. Vandenberg 72 was my choice this season. Obviously, the lads over in America was Razine Doyle and Christian Walsh, and they done a lot of, you know, a really good podcast this week reflecting on the US tour and what we've seen of it. You know, it was a really interesting tour, wasn't it? From the fiery clash in Sevilla. To Mignolet's howler against Sporting Lisbon, and I actually watched the Borussia Dortmund game from a what's it called, a Buchan Bronco in Benidorm.
Oh, wow.
I was just riding it, just watching the Dortmund
Did
game.
you stay on for the
Allison
90?
on his horse.
Well,
yeah.
we had like a competition between me and my four mates. Whoever stayed on because there was like a timer. Whoever stayed on for the least amount of time had to do a shot of tequila. And tequila is my antichrist, so I held on to those
I think
horns.
it might be everyone's.
I held on to those horns for a solid, and I think people appreciate it, 72 seconds.
Wow.
And then one of the boys fell off after 40, so easily
Stole the
won it.
crown.
But now to look ahead, obviously, to Napoli on the weekend at Murrayfield. Anyone ever been to Murrayfield? Theo, you look like a man who's been to Murrayfield.
I've only been to Scotland like once,
No.
never mind Murrayfield.
I love Scotland as well, but no.
Edinburgh's a cracking holiday.
I've been to St Andrews and absolutely adored that. Scotland's a great place, and where our lovely Andy Robertson hails from.
Indeed.
Of course, be a nice occasion for him, I think, won't it?
And who do you think then, Theo, from these games in America, who is at the moment, who has kind of gave themselves the best showing in pre-season? I know you kind of wrote that article today about the winners and the losers. Who's impressed you?
Well, you obviously didn't read it because it's not mine.
It's not yours?
No.
Is it Tom Caviller's?
Nope.
Whose is it?
The one man in the States.
Ah, it's Ian Doyle's. Well, even better. Who is your big winner of pre-season so far?
Yeah, I don't think you can really look far away from what Doyley said. It's Regan Brewster, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's come in, he's not played competitive football before, he's got a bag full of goals. There's that real excitement about him there. You probably count Larucci as a winner as well. If it hadn't been for the injury, I think there's quite a relief there that it was only he's going to be out for 2-3 weeks, so he could still be that backup left back. Losers, again, hard to say. It's probably the players who are injured, like Nathaniel Klein. This was his chance to stake a claim, and now he's just going to be back up, probably see out his contract, whether he can get a loan move in January, unless they're quite happy for him to just be that option. And then it's your likes of Harry Wilson and Ryan Kent. It's like, have they done enough to earn a future at Liverpool? Still debatable. You can look at the other players like the Brewsters and Larucci's who have shown that a bit more, a bit younger, if they've got time on the side. With Wilson and Kent, this is last chance saloon for them. And with Salah, Mane, Firmino, they're closer to coming back to this squad now. Time is running out for them to stake a claim to get into that squad this season, and they're going to have to really make a good impression at Murrayfield and against Lyon if they're going to have a future at the club.
What kind of side do you think Klopp will put out on the weekend, Sean?
I think, well, we did our kind of team selectors in midweek, and I think, he'll just go as strong as he can, because it really is ticking closer to the start of the season now, isn't it? And that curtain raiser against Man City, so as strong as possible. I don't think we're expecting anyone else back fresh for this one, are we? It's still a bit of a wait until the guys who were in the summer tournaments come back. But yeah, in terms of like who's impressed, I'd echo what Theo said, and I think Origi for me would probably be the one to pick up on, because I think it was a very significant pre-season for him, because obviously we've spoken about him. Statue Kiva's building is well underway.
Take your time now, actually.
Well, yeah.
I was going to actually put out a little appeal if anyone actually wants to help me, because I've got a lot of work on at the minute. And
do you literally want to build a statue like in your house?
I kind of promised on the podcast that I would, so now I've got to stick to it. Otherwise, I'll have some very angry people.
They're already queuing in Birkenhead, so you better get on with it for the start of the season.
It's going to be a moneymaker too, so.
You're in charge.
This journalism thing doesn't work out.
But yeah, on Divock, I think not to say that I was a doubter, but
you talking about the actual Origi or the statue?
The actual one, the actual one at this stage. I think a lot of what he did last season, his little cameos, there was that little doubt in my mind as to whether that was just a sustained purple patch, and he was kind of riding on a bit of momentum, and there was a couple of times where he actually had a bit of a stinker, but then he popped up and scored a vital goal, or made a vital contribution, which you can't argue with to an extent, but it did smack a little bit of an overperformance. Can he keep that up? But give him his due, he's looked like a senior man in pre-season, and he's got a couple of goals, so I think if he can, it's going to be key, as we've said, with Salah, Firmino and Mane coming back a bit late. Such exertions for the three of them for this season and summer tournaments the season before, they're going to be absolutely knackered, and fair play to them. It's key that Origi can step up. Brewster will obviously get his chance, but I think there's a lot on Divock over the next kind of 6 to 8 weeks. But yeah, all the signs are in pre-season that he's ready to give it a go.
Is that a concern, Kiva? Obviously, as Shaw mentions, that your Manes and your Salahs and your Firminos have been playing non-stop football now for what seems like forever, and do you think that kind of points towards a bigger role for Divock and Brewster and the likes this season?
I think it does worry it a little bit, because obviously they're getting back late, and then we'll sort of have to await this sort of for them to come back, and they haven't really stopped, have they? So you think, how do the bodies take that? But these are athletes, they could do this week in, week out anyway. So I think sometimes we can look at it as thinking, I think it's more of probably a mental strain of just playing non-stop football. But, I think Alisson and Firmino would have had, 3 weeks, Klopp said, didn't he? And obviously Salah crashed out earlier, the African Cup of Nations, so he got a bit more time. And then Mane obviously got to the final. So, they will have had holidays by the looks of Alisson's cowboy hat and on a horse. Looked like, he's having fun. They will be having a relaxed time. They'll probably come back refreshed and raring to go. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the worry with Origi is now he's sort of penned this deal. There's no release clause. It's like his future's at Liverpool. We've made that quite clear, and the fans wanted it. We got what we wanted in terms of that. But he's got to have an impact now. I think he can't go missing. If he does, say Mane won't probably start the season, it'll be Origi against Norwich. And you feel like if he doesn't have a good showing, or an assist, or even not an assist or a goal, just to have a good impact, you think, that can roll into the next game. And then if he doesn't do nothing, and you want him to sort of just start as he means to go on. So I'd love nothing more for him to score, even against like Man City in the Community Shield, or in the Super Cup against Chelsea, and then hopefully he can just build on. I just don't think he's the type of player that can, obviously he has gone before on a drought, but I wouldn't like to see how it would maybe affect him. I feel like he needs to sort of score, and it would keep him sort of going. Do you know what I mean?
And build his momentum.
Yeah. He's had that confidence before. He's had that run in the team before he got the first injury against Everton, where he was getting the team, he was scoring goals every week, and that killed his momentum there. I think Jurgen Klopp said that it's only now you realise how much of an impact that injury had on him. It's only when he's got in the team and he's been able to pick up confidence that he's been able to show what he's about again. I think that's why he's now not going to be a winger going into the new season. He's earned that right to be the go-to striker off the bench. And the concern for me with the front three is you look at last year, Salah had that slowish start, didn't he, where he didn't quite get the goals after the World Cup, after the injury in the Champions League final, and there was that added pressure in there. Firmino obviously had his spells last year where he wasn't scoring goals, and it was up to Mane to really step up. So when you got all three of them there, that's a lot of pressure on them if they can't do it. For Origi to step up, it's like, you're the go-to man, you're going to have to deliver the goals, because the only other option we've got at the moment is a 19-year-old who's not played football before.
Is that the beauty of having three world-class strikers, though, in terms of one of them will always be scoring, surely, won't it?
Yeah, that's what got them through last season. I think whenever one of them had a little blip, the other two carried them through. I think the only time Liverpool had to do it without them was against Barcelona of all teams.
Easy.
Well.
Easy.
So hopefully it can carry on this season. It's just, well, as we keep saying, when you're playing that much football, we said it last season, they played a lot of football here, and now you have the Champions League final again, another year of international tournaments. It's going to take its toll. It's going to be a time where they will need a little bit more of support off the bench to relieve that pressure, and it's just as well that the squad is sort of coming together more when you've got Brewster stepping up and Origi finding his feet a bit more.
I think that's actually a really interesting thought. The front three, if Mane scores, then Salah and Firmino, it's okay, because they're like a together sort of unit, and it's like, well, one of them scored, And that could happen, like Mane score one week, Salah the next, Firmino the next, and you'd never really, I don't think, criticise them on like a drought, because they're like these sort of like one little team in our team, aren't they? Where Origi doesn't feel like he's a part of that, so I feel like he has to impress on his own. Whereas I think they can do it and take the pressure off each other, because they have been that, attacking trio for so long.
It's that competition as well, like we saw with Salah and Mane last year, when they both wanted the golden boot, they both got the golden boot, but there's always that pressure of, oh, you've scored, I want to score. We saw it with the penalties as well. Salah wants to take the penalties. They all want the goals. They all want to have that leading star role in this team.
I think just quickly on Brewster as well, it'll be interesting to see. There's still a little bit of time in pre-season, isn't there? There's a couple more games before City. Like what Kiva was saying there about that trio, he hasn't had the chance yet to kind of be part of that, as he hasn't played with any of those three, I don't think, in pre-season, has he, or maybe even previously. So, if he's in that team, he's already impressing in pre-season as part of a kind of bit of a makeshift front three. So when he slots inside that, alongside the two of those established stars, we might see even more from him. So that's another reason why I do think, go back to what we were saying earlier, that things are looking a little bit rosier than I think some fans might think.
I'll offer this one out to you, Theo, as Kiva's shamelessly admitted she was Kippo. But does watching the kind of pre-season games, and I know it's pre-season and you can't always fully judge, but does it make you appreciate what, not to be too harsh on Mignolet, because as I know, all goalkeepers can make mistakes, but does it make you appreciate, the impact Alisson, Mane, Salah and Firmino have on this Liverpool squad when you see them without them?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you go through any team and you took away their four best players, they'd struggle. The fact that Liverpool is still competing, it's not the end of the world when you're without one of them. To have all four, and you expect it in pre-season, but like we said, they spent that much money on Alisson because he's a world-class goalkeeper.
Yeah.
We saw the difference he made. Remember doing the podcast all at the start of last season when it's, who's Klopp's best signing? It's like, well, if Liverpool win a trophy this year, you're going to say Alisson's up there. I think we can all agree now Alisson is one of his greatest. And then you take Salah, Firmino and Mane. You almost take them for granted because they've been doing it so consistently for so long now that just how long can they keep up? But this is the levels they've reached, and there's a reason why Liverpool's front three is the most feared on the planet. It's because they are that good together. And if you take a third of any team out, how are they going to replace that? Like, you can't all have endless talents off the bench like Man City have, the senior players, but then there's not that chemistry there. They don't link up the same way. And Klopp's very good with how he's built his team together to get the best out of those players, so they all suit the system together. So it's one of those, if the front three have to drop out, he might have to change the style somewhat to get the best out of his other players. And you think how when they lost Coutinho, they had to change the system there to get the best out of the full-backs, to get the best out of the midfield, for it all to fit in together nicely. So obviously it's going to look a bit rough around the edges without players that have made it so successful.
It's weird, isn't it, Sean? And Theo kind of touched on it then. It's always difficult to remember Liverpool without that front three, isn't it? And I'm looking back now, and what was the front three before them?
God, I don't know what you're looking back to. Like,
It's been like Europa League final when it was 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Sturridge.
Yeah,
Benteke.
yeah, those type of guys. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it does feel like a whole kind of tactical evolution, really, doesn't it? And just a different way of approaching things. And I think the same can be said with midfield, because I think the gold standard for me was always that one under Rafa of Alonso, Mascherano and Gerrard, where they all kind of had a very defined role. You had, your kind of destroyer, your creator, and then Gerrard as well ahead of them, linking up with Torres. But now
you're Stevie.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically, yeah,
role.
in a category of his own. But like, the way these guys work, and I do think, like touched upon earlier, there's maybe a deficiency if there was a really creative outlet like a number 10 who could come in and change it up occasionally, and games where it's really tight. But it's all guile, it's all graft, and whilst often last season there was some criticism of the end product and the goal threat that came from midfield, it was all about the system, wasn't it? And allowing the fullbacks to push on. They were like creators supreme, both of them, and geared towards just making the team work better. So yeah, things have changed vastly over the last few seasons.
Excited to see the lads back, Eva?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
You missed him in training?
The what?
Have you missed him in training? You're part of the team now, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm on an extended break for winning the Cup of America.
So then we can move on a little bit more now, and Theo, there was a little bit from you today about the FIFA Club World Cup. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that and dates being confirmed and what it kind of means for Liverpool this season?
Yeah, FIFA have finally confirmed when the tournament's taking place. It's going to be that week before Christmas that we all expected, so at least one of Liverpool's fixtures will need to be rearranged, as Liverpool will play 2 games in this tournament. They'll play the semi-final, and then they'll either be in a third place playoff or in the final. The third place playoff and the final both clash with Liverpool's trip to West Ham on the 18th of December. There's also potentially going to have to be a shift in League Cup fixtures, so if Liverpool reach the quarterfinals of the League Cup, that'll clash with their semi-final. And it's been one of those where Liverpool have been waiting so long for the tournament to actually confirm what's going on. Like, there's that whole confusion that no one thought the tournament was going ahead because FIFA had said they're going to revamp it from 2021, and then when they said, it's going to be in Qatar, Liverpool didn't get the invite until I think this week when they've announced when the games are taking place. I think the sound from Jurgen Klopp is it's almost an inconvenience there. They don't want it to impact too much on the Premier League and the Champions League. We saw when Liverpool last competed in the competition back in 2005, 2006 that there was a little bit of a hangover when they came back from Japan. So it's going to be a lot more pressure on Liverpool's squad there to how they can deal with it when it's 7 competitions. And when it's so much more intense now, feels like they're going to be playing twice every week for the next 10 months. And when you've got players that have been playing for 2 years solid, it's going to be very tiring for them. But at the same time, there's that excitement with this competition because you're running out of time to win it. Liverpool have never won the tournament. As we've said, it's going to be revamped from 2021. So this is going to be Liverpool's chance to be champions of the world.
Sean, do you feel like it's a bit of a hindrance? If you could pull out today with no repercussions, would you do it?
I can see the argument for that, but personally I'm of the opposite view, because I kind of think...
Do you want to win the sextuple?
Well, that would be lovely, but I think the dilemma Liverpool and Klopp have got, we touched on it already, is a lot of these fringe players around the squad, Wilson, Kent and Cohen, they're all over the side really, all in each position. It's kind of how much game time are you able to afford them at Liverpool? Is sending them out on loan the best thing for their development? Would they not be better kind of in-house and kind of being steeped in everything that's happening at Melwood? And whilst game time's always been the thing, you're not going to be able to give them that opportunity. I think this season, surely it's not going to be the case like last season where Liverpool went out at the first hurdle in both domestic cups. With 2 tough draws, which obviously kind of put a quash on how much game time like the fringe players could get. But now you've got hopefully a bit more progress in them, and I think this is an opportunity. I think Klopp's just got to say, especially as Theo was saying, with the schedule being so tough at an already difficult time over Christmas and winter. Just send the not quite the reserves, but everyone who's still got something to prove, go and send them to this. They'll have a couple of games and a proper opportunity for Klopp to have a look at them in competitive action. So I think there's something to be gained from it this time round, whereas in any other season it might well be a hindrance, like you say.
Agree with Sean, Kiva?
We're top of the league now and we're flying off to wherever Qatar is it.
Yeah.
I'm worried sick because Christmas is mad anyway. I remember just getting through Christmas. Obviously last season we were 7 points clear, and then whatever happened with City, it is that sort of, if you get through that, it's like the trenches of the season and you just sort of make your way through it and you're like, we're free, and then City beat you and whatever happens after that. I've blacked it out from my memory. But yeah, so it's just not a good time to do it. I don't know why it's not in the summer or the week after, sort of say the Champions League final next year, and I don't know. I know it's because obviously whoever wins it next year will then be in it next year as well, and it's just, I really want to win it because I remember when we were in it last time, and you just you think it's such a good opportunity to have that nice gold badge on your kit, isn't it? Like Real Madrid have for all them years, and obviously all Bayern Munich had it for a bit, didn't they? And I think did Chelsea win it when they were
United won it.
Nice. So I think it's a nice thing to win and have, it's another sort of something to win. And these players now, after winning the Champions League, like you say, I think we will probably try as well in the 2 cup competitions, because look at Man City last year. They showed no letting up in any of them because their players were that hungry to win everything, and Guardiola was. And I wouldn't say Klopp isn't, because of course he is. He's just sort of took them games as maybe the chance to sort of let the younger players have a go, and it hasn't come off for him. So going forward this season, I think he might try and do that, but with a little bit more experience in there as well, just to bring some more success to his medal haul at Liverpool.
I think they have to sort of approach it as though it's a warm weather training camp. They normally go away, don't they, end of January when they've been knocked out of the cup competitions earlier. So it's only a month earlier than that. to get a bit of camaraderie there, get the players away to just train and go again ahead of what is going to be a really intense period of the season. But with the competition, the fact they are going to have to play that 2 games no matter what, you might as well just go out and win it. It's only going to be a week this season that's had that impact, and before, whilst there was a hangover, it didn't come until 2 months after that. So then you're looking at the progress in the FA Cup and the League Cup to see what that happens there, and then maybe that is when Jurgen Klopp can look at the transfer window and think maybe we need someone in January to lessen the load on some of the players there. But then you'll have like Nathaniel Klein's back from injury, so you know how Brewster's settled in, how Larouci's settled in, so you have a better feel for the squad there.
Let's hope. I think what we need to hope there is that like Montserrat or whoever else is in the Club World Cup aren't listening to us, because we've just given them the best team talk ever, haven't we? Send the kids on the wall. Send the kids, treat it like a warm weather training camp, lads. We'll be all right. Sean, more interesting news yesterday as well about the Anfield Road extension, and a little update on that. Pretty exciting times.
Was this Sean's story or was this mine?
This was yours, but I was sick of you talking, so I went to Sean.
Yeah, no, very exciting. Obviously,
great story that you wrote, Sean. By the way,
thank you very much. Yeah. I don't remember doing that one, but no, yeah, it's great to hear, isn't it? It's been a question that's been on everyone's lips since the very successful redevelopment of the main stand, and yeah, I think the key thing to say is obviously I don't think there'd be one Liverpool fan who disagree that FSG made the absolute correct decision, staying put at Anfield and seeking to redevelop. And I think the way that the main stand redevelopment was achieved has just it's been done. It's been handled very well. It's great to witness on match days, and you know it's obviously increased the capacity and allowed more people to get in. So yeah, fingers crossed the same thing happens, and it's good that what's your story, Theo, isn't it? How many extra seats are they looking at now with this?
They don't want to name numbers at the moment, but it would have been 4,000 with the original permit, which would have seen them overtake the Etihad to just under 60,000.
Yeah. And
then you're looking at the rest of the teams in the country, or maybe if they want to go a bit bigger than that, I think Tottenham's next after United is like one of the biggest for Premier League teams. That's 66,000. United's over 70, so you could leap quite a way up for Premier League grounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So
well, I want to know from the three of you, where is your favourite place to sit in Anfield at the moment?
The Kop.
Always the Kop. Yeah,
it's got to be the Kop, hasn't it? I had once had a season ticket.
Your season ticket is in the...
Ours is the lower Kenny, as it is now, but I used to have one on the second row of the upper tier of the Anfield Road end, right in the middle. Oof. And that was a belter.
That's nice.
Yeah,
you're going Anfield Road then?
That was probably my favourite season ticket, but like Kiva says, you can't beat the Kop for a big night.
Better than stand
no.
It's got to be the Kop, hasn't it? Unless we want to do the business head and go, it's in the press box, because it means you're doing your job at the game.
I mean, I do like the main stand. I've been like up in the heavens where the oxygen comes down because you're that high up. And then in like the nice, been in the posh seats a couple of times, been fortunate to go in there, and it is unbelievable. So I do like it, but then the Kop, like that's where my first ever match was, and to think like my granddad stood on the Kop like in the 50s and stuff, so it's that nice sort of, I think, that family feeling, isn't it, of just being a part of something, and that's where the songs come from, isn't it? So you like to be a part of what good atmosphere it can be, but just to have a seat in the ground's great, isn't it? I think
once every so while it is nice to just not be in the Kop, just see it at its best, isn't it? When you got all the flags, all the banners, all the fans standing singing the songs, just to go, wow, this really is a special stand in English football.
We haven't mentioned Kenny Dalglish, by the way, which is it's now a name which people are struggling to adapt to. Just
it's hard, isn't it, to change, even though it's right there, isn't it, in big letters.
Big lines.
Can you still remember your first game at Anfield that you went to watch?
God, I don't think I
Yes,
can.
mine was a dud. Mine was a friendly against Lazio.
Friendly against Lazio,
Andre
sure.
Voronin.
I think, well, I'm told I was very, very young. It was when Ian Rush had come back to Liverpool, and my dad took me to the Kop, but I think we left at half time because I was kicking and screaming.
Everyone's always got a few left at half time.
Mine was actually a really nice story, because I just grew up with like my mum's single mum weren't able to take me to the match, and then when I was in like sixth form, my mate was like, got a spare ticket there to like go to Anfield, and I was like, what, really, like amazing. So I went to watch the semi-final versus Atletico Madrid. Obviously Diego Forlan broke our hearts that night in the Europa League, but then the girl that I went with, Becky Bell, I met her and her dad.
What a shout out that is.
If
you're listening,
He'll be
Becky.
checking her on social media.
I met her and her dad Rob outside the Wanda, just ahead of bumped into them, and obviously that's at Let's Go Stadium, and I just thought, what like a full sort of circle moment that was. Really nice. I think I mentioned it on the podcast we done with Joe Thomas, it was just like one of them moments, you know, where you just think it's full circle.
I hope Becky Bell's like a massive Bloods Red fan. She's like eating a tea, she just spits it out across the room. She's like, "Get in here! They've mentioned me." And obviously, looking across the park, you know, we do have to mention Everton announced their new.
Do we?
Well, sorry. Everton announced their new stadium plans, and I think even had quite a positive reception from Liverpool fans and figures online as well. Obviously, Jamie Carragher, seemingly a big fan, but Sean, just a massive opportunity for the city of Liverpool, isn't it?
I totally concur with what Carragher said, which for those who've missed it, he just said, you know, this is fantastic. It's great designs, great plans, and, you know, what an opportunity for the north of Liverpool and just for the city in general. I don't think any Red could realistically say anything other than that. You know, it's a big and a bold and a brave decision from the Blues to go and build something new. I think, like we said before, it's worked for Liverpool to stay where they are, but I can see why expansion and redevelopment of Goodison wasn't really feasible. But of all the plans, and there's been a few, having the King's Dock and various other locations that have been touted for Everton since they've kind of been seeking to build a new stadium. This one, it looks brilliant. The Dan Mice designs are fantastic, and yeah, I just think what an opportunity for the city. And Dave Prentice wrote a piece a few weeks ago that for me just absolutely put to bed the whole kind of UNESCO World Heritage debate. I think, you know, city like Liverpool and somewhere where football means so much, like this opportunity for the Blues and for just the city as a whole, it'd be absolutely madness if everyone didn't get behind it and try and see it realised.
And Keith, you know, I think sometimes you kind of lose sight of it in this age of social media and stuff. But do you think there is still kind of, as Sean's saying there, you know, for Liverpool fans, kind of, you know, being, I don't know if pleased is the right word, but, you know, being quite amicable about these new plans and this new stadium? Do you think, you know, obviously we all grow up in families where it's split between red and blue, and you know, we're unfortunate enough to work with some of those darn Blues in this office as well, and do you think it's still quite in person anyway, it's still quite friendly and healthy rivalry and whatnot?
Yeah, it's great to see. You know, you see, like, first of all, obviously you see people posting about it, then you see most of my cousins are Blue Noses, and it's nice for them to sort of have something to like look forward to. And you know, the plans look absolutely out of this world. They look amazing and
stupendous,
quite stupendous, simply stupendous. And you know, just
would you like a stadium?
Please. Yeah, so you know, I just think it's a great thing, like Sean says, for the city and you know, for the region as a whole. I think, you know, Everton are a massive football club as well. They're in the Premier League and whatever else nice things we can say about them, insert here. You know, for them to move, it is a big decision, isn't it? And you know, they are very bold plans, and you know, like Sean says, the architect's done just a brilliant job. It looks, you know, I even got goosebumps admittedly off that video, just thinking, you know, this is an opportunity for Everton now. And you've seen it with Tottenham's new ground, and you know, then we've seen sort of West Ham where it doesn't quite work in a way, but that was like a ground they sort of just inherited and were happy to get into. You can lose that old sort of feeling, which you think, you know, but then the plans to redevelop where Goodison Park is now also look amazing. So, you know, it's a really well thought out thing, and I just can't see how people wouldn't be positive about it. You know, it's not something, you know, Liverpool and Everton will battle on the pitch. It's not like this is something else. This is something for the city as a whole, and for us over on the Whittle to look out overnight and see the new Goodison lit up.
Wait till that new Tranmere stadium gets built and you and Theo will have a real treat. Just to finish there, a little bit of fun to wash the bad taste of being nice about Everton out of your mouths.
Do you want some coke before?
Yeah, I've nailed that, don't worry about that. Liverpool, 3 new kits this season, red, white, and that kind of, what are we calling that third kit?
What was it? Phantom
turquoise?
Phantom something or other.
Phantom?
Yeah.
Ghosty's giving it a tag, isn't he? I can't remember.
Yeah, he comes up with these things, doesn't he, Ghosty?
What's your favourite Liverpool kit of this season, if you had to invest your money? I think Sepp Vandenberg wore that white one pretty nice. But I think the Phantom, my favourite.
It's the Phantom for me. It's just that little bit different. I think the white one looks a little bit standard.
Kit, don't they?
Yeah, they've got a good line of third kit, so I'm going for that one.
Kiva?
I like the white one, the socks, I think, and the navy shorts are really nice. I don't like the Phantom one, if we're calling it that. Not because it's got like blue in it, because it's got a weird pattern on the front, and it just my head can't get to grips with
It's
that.
like a
And
goal net sort of thing.
I'm not a fan. I like clean sort of, I'm just about putting up with the pinstripes on the home kit. So.
Theo's already invested in that home top.
And
Theo?
the away one.
And the away one?
And the away one.
What one's your favourite then?
I like the away one, the white one.
The white one?
I'm not sure if I'm going to go for the black, but I've got a birthday coming up if anyone wants to get me a nice present.
The white one's not.
There we go, everyone. It's the shout out.
The white one's my favourite, but me nephew Fletcher, another little shout out there, he won't be listening. He's only 2. He got it, and we went to a party the other week, and he was just literally covered.
Yeah.
White kits on kids just aren't good. Feel sorry for permanent Tranmere fans.
little bit of clothing advice from
yeah, no, it is.
to finish.
Honestly, it's a big thing.
Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed it. We've covered a real range of topics there, and I've been really interested. Sean, you were particularly on fire there today. What's been in your breakfast there?
I didn't have any
Just
this morning.
a Tesco meal.
Maybe that's the answer. Yeah.
That little £3 meal. Yeah. Well, keep tuned. Obviously, next week we will have the big hitters back. Ian Doyle back in the country, and join us again for your latest Blood Red podcast after the Reds take on Napoli. I got there in the end. I take on Napoli in Scotland. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe us on Acast, and you can also sign up for the Blood Red podcast group on Facebook and get in touch as always on Twitter. Have a great weekend, and thanks for joining.